In this video, we'll create a Web3 creator platform where users can come into our website, connect their wallet, deploy NFT collections onto the blockchain, and view all of the NFTs within those collections on the UI. To create our project, we'll be using thirdweb's React and TypeScript SDKs along with the CLI to build out a full-stack Next.js and TypeScript web application. Before we jump right into the code, if you enjoyed this kind of content, remember to like the video and subscribe to the thirdweb channel for more Web3 educational content like this coming soon. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. The very first thing we want to do is we want to open up the CLI and we're going to run the npx thirdweb create command. What this is going to do is it kicks off an interactive CLI where we get to answer a few questions to kickstart our project. So the first question is, what kind of project do we want to build? And today we're going to be building out an application. So let's go ahead and select app here. Give our project a name. I'm going to call mine creator platform. I spelled it wrong, but that's all right. And here's where you get to select the framework and the language of your choice. If you want to follow along with this video, I'm going to be selecting Next.js and TypeScript for this project. Once that's done, we can change directories into that newly created project. And I'm using Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to run code dot in the CLI here to open it up in Visual Studio Code. From this boilerplate code, we have two simple files, one of which is the _app.tsx file, which wraps our entire application in this thirdweb provider component. And on line 5 here, we have declared the active chain ID, which is the network or the blockchain that we want our users to connect to and interact with. And typically, if you're deploying contracts onto a testnet, or if you're deploying contracts onto a mainnet, this is where you want to configure just to match up with the network that you actually deploy those contracts to. Now in this video, we're not going to be using the mainnet, so we don't use real funds. We're going to be using the Goerli testnet to deploy contracts to. So I'll go ahead and change that to Goerli rather than mainnet. And the other page that we get generated from that npx thirdweb create command is this homepage here, the index.tsx file. And within this, we have some simple conditional logic where we have 3 hooks imported from the React package on line 1. One of those is the user address, which detects the currently connected wallet address. Second one is connect with MetaMask, which asks the user to connect their wallet using the MetaMask wallet to our website. And line 7 here is obviously the opposite of that, is the user disconnect, which asks the user to disconnect their wallet from the website. And based on that address, so we load in the currently connected wallet address if there is one. If they do have that connected, then we show a disconnect wallet button as well as the currently connected address. But if there isn't an address detected, i.e. the user hasn't connected their wallet to our website yet, then that's where we'll show that connect with MetaMask. I'm going to go ahead and modify our connected wallet state a little bit here and go ahead and delete the existing stuff we have on line 12 and 13. And what we want to do here is we're going to ask the user to enter some data about an NFT collection that they want to create using our website. So just to get kickstarted, we're going to add these 2 input forms here where we have one input is the name of the NFT collection. So let's say input is type text, and we'll have a placeholder of, let's quickly close this off so Pretty is happy. So we'll have a placeholder of name. And that will do for now. And we'll copy and paste that into the next line where we'll have, rather than name, we'll have description. And what we're going to do on line 9 here is we have some additional state. So we want to update state as the user inputs these values for the name and the description of their website. And what we're trying to achieve on this page is we have some sort of form that allows users to enter information about an NFT collection that they want to create. So for example, we're having a name and a description of the NFT collection. The user will enter it, and beneath these inputs, we'll have a button that deploys the NFT collection by running a function that calls the SDK.deployer.deploy NFT collection function as we're about to right now. So let's first store this information in state up here. So we'll say const name and set name, and we'll give that a type of string and initialize that with an empty string. And we'll of course need to import the use state hook from React. On the line below, we'll do the same thing for description and set description, and we'll do the same thing where we use state, initialize that with an empty string. And within these inputs now, what we want to do is on change of these, so every time a user changes the value or enters a value into this input, we want to set the name of the state. So if I type one letter in, the state of name is going to be updated if I type the next letter in. Basically, it allows us to just capture the value that the user is typing in into state here. And we'll do the same for the description, where we update the value, and we'll also store the value. We'll set the value to be description, and we'll set the value to be name. And once the user has input the name and the description, what we want to do is we'll create a button down here that says, we'll call it the deploy NFT collection button. And on click of this button, we're going to write a function called deploy NFT collection. And that'll be an async function that doesn't take in any parameters. But what we're going to do is we're going to connect to the thirdweb SDK by using another hook from the React library called the use SDK hook. So what we can do is you can say const SDK is equal to use SDK. And we can go ahead and import this from the React library as well. And now within this deploy NFT collection, we firstly want to say if there is a currently connected wallet address, so the user has connected their wallet, and we have an SDK available from this use SDK hook, then we check again, is there a name and a description? And if all of those criteria are true, we can go ahead and deploy that NFT collection on behalf of the connected wallet. And the best thing about this use SDK hook is it detects the connected wallet and makes actions on behalf of that connected wallet. So when we call the deployer.deploy NFT collection, as we're about to do, it's going to act on behalf of the connected wallet and deploy from that wallet. So the wallet that's connected to the website and clicking these buttons is going to be the owner of that contract. And the other thing it does is it detects the active chain ID here that we have configured in the thirdweb provider. So this is going to deploy the contracts on behalf of the connected wallet onto the Go Early test network. The first check we want to run is there an SDK found, and is there a connected wallet address? So we can say if, yep, that's what I wanted. Then we can just simply return. You might want to throw an error or show an alert. Depending on how your application is built out, you can do whatever you want in this case. And then if we also check, is there a description and a name? So has the user entered the required information about this NFT collection? So if there's not a name or a description, we'll also exit this function. But now we've determined all of the criteria for us to deploy that NFT collection without running into any errors is true. Now we can call that deployer.deploy NFT collection function. To do that, we can say const deployed is equal to await SDK.deployer. And here you can see we have all kinds of different availabilities in this deployer object. So we have deploy built-in contract, deploy contract from URI, from AVI, addition, and all of the pre-built contracts available, as well as all of these other functions available from this. But the one we're interested in is this deploy NFT collection function here. And if we open the parentheses here, we can see that this takes in one parameter called metadata. And the required fields of that metadata, you can see all of the available fields here, but the required ones are the name. The description is optional, so we don't have to have that description. And the other required field is the primary sale recipient. So this is the address that will receive the primary sales of the NFTs sold within this collection. That's not as relevant for an NFT collection as it is for one of the drop contracts where you would have other users coming in and claiming the NFTs, but it's required as a parameter nonetheless. So for the name, we're going to use the name that we have set in state that gets updated every time the user inputs something into this name input field down here. So let's say name is equal to name, and the other field we need is that primary sale recipient. Now this is going to be the connected wallet address. So the connected wallet address is the one deploying this NFT collection, but let's say I wanted my best mate to have all of the funds from this NFT collection sales. I could set any other address here, but just for simplicity, I'm going to set the primary sale recipient to be the connected wallet address, and most of the time that's going to be the address that you want to receive the sales anyway. And you can see if you hover over the deployed variable type here, we have a type of string, and this actually returns the contract address of the NFT collection that you've just deployed after it's been deployed. So what it's going to do is after we click this button and we associate this onClick handler here, so let's say onClick is equal to deploy NFT collection. So when a user clicks this button, it's firstly going to run a few checks. So did you enter the required fields like the name, and do you have a connected wallet address, and is there an SDK that we've loaded from this hook? But after all of those have been determined to be true, what we're going to do is we're going to run this deploy NFT collection on behalf of your wallet onto the Goerli test network. We have the name and the primary sale recipient set up. Once that is prompted in MetaMask, the user will be required to approve it. If they don't approve it, this function will probably error out at this point. But if they do approve it, that's going to process, and in the meantime, we'll be in this loading state until that process, the transaction is confirmed. The deployed variable then becomes the address of the NFT collection that just got deployed. So just to test this out, we can run the alert of deployed, and I'm not sure why GitHub Copilot suggested that. We can just do deployed and the address. So if we open up the terminal and run the yarn dev command here, it should open up localhost 3000 now. And if we open this in our browser, what we should be prompted to do is connect our wallet address, connect our wallet to the website first. And as you can see, I've already gone ahead and done that. You probably can't see anything actually until I zoom in. If I input the name, which I'm just going to call as cool NFTs, description is this the best NFT collection? I think so. And we click the deploy NFT collection button. What it's going to do is it's going to process the inputs of the name and the description that we just entered. It's going to prompt the transaction to deploy a proxy contract in MetaMask here. And if we go ahead and confirm that, once that transaction gets approved, then it should alert us of the contract address of the contract of the NFT collection that we've just deployed. It looks like that transaction has been confirmed. And as you can see, we deployed the NFT collection of OX083, etc., etc. What we can do now is actually load all of the NFT collections that this connected wallet address has deployed onto our application. So let's go ahead and go back to the Visual Studio Code now, and we'll code up the function to load all of the NFT collections that this user has deployed. So to load all of the NFT collections that a user has deployed, we'll be using a useEffect block. And let's write a little comment here to sort of explain what we're doing. We want to say load all of the contracts that this wallet address has deployed and filter those results to only show the NFT collections, which is what we want to do. And then we'll store those in state. So we'll load the results from the SDK. We'll filter the contracts down, as we'll see this function that we're about to call returns all different kinds of contracts. We'll filter those results to only show NFT collection contracts. We'll store those results in state, and then we'll show them on the UI beneath the form that we created down here. So the first step here is we want to use effect block. And within this use effect block, what we're going to do is, if I just quickly get the structure here, we'll be calling this SDK again, but this time we're going to say get contract list. And if we open this up, we can see this accepts a wallet address as a parameter. And the result is it returns all of the contracts deployed by the specific address. And just to make it a little bit simpler, I'm going to write an async function within this that gets called immediately, and within that async function, we'll store the result of calling this function. So we'll say const contracts is equal to sdk.getContractList, and we'll await this now. And we need to pass the address into this function. So if there is not an address, if not address, and if there's not an SDK, we'll return similarly as we did in this deploy NFT collection function here. So basically it says if the address or the SDK is not ready, we're not able to call this load on the address if we don't know the address. And now this is suggesting that we update the dependencies array to be address and SDK, which I'm going to go ahead and do. Basically what that means is this block gets rerun every time the address changes or every time the SDK changes as well. So this will run if address is undefined and it says, okay, I'm exiting out, there's no address, but then it'll run again when the address does get connected or gets detected. This will run again and say, okay, this time there is an address and there is an SDK. Now we can actually call that logic. So now we have all of the contracts deployed available in the registry. So this fetches the contracts deployed onto the thirdweb dashboard or the contracts deployed from the thirdweb SDK that have been added to our registry. So this will come back with all kinds of pre-built contracts or custom contracts that you've released. And what we can do now is filter the results to only show the NFT collections. So we can say NFT collections is equal to contracts.filter. And within this contract, we want to return if the contract type is equal to NFT collection. And the final step of this is to set that in state. So to store these NFT collections in state, we'll first import the contract type from the TypeScript SDK. That was a sentence and a half. If we click into this, all it does is return this kind of enum of custom NFT drop and all the different kinds of contracts that you can deploy using the thirdweb dashboard or the SDK. And this is just simply to please the TypeScript compiler. So if you're not using TypeScript, you don't need to worry about this. But down here, we can now say set collections is equal to NFT collections, and we can add the stateful variable here. We have collections, set collections is equal to this type. So if we look at the return type of the get contract list here, we can see it returns an address, which is a contract address, and it returns the type, which is either a custom NFT drop, signature drop, etc., etc. And once we get that back, we'll filter it down to NFT collections, and we'll set those NFT collections in this collections variable in state. And this is the type of that. So it's an array of objects that contains the address, the contract type, and we can actually add the metadata, it looks like here. So we can see metadata is equal to a function that returns a promise of kind or type any. So now we've loaded all of the NFT collections deployed by the connector wallet address. We have them available in state in this collections variable here. What we can do is beneath our form here, let's add a horizontal line just to sort of separate the page a bit. We can add a H2 tag that says my NFT collections. What we can do here is we're going to iterate over the collections, as GitHub Copilot seems to have figured out. We're going to iterate over the NFT collections. But to do that, I'm actually going to go ahead and create a component. So let's create a new folder called components. Within this, we'll create a file called NFT collection.tsx. Just quickly enter some boilerplate code for us. And what we're going to do is we're going to render a NFT collection component for each collection in that collections array. So what we're going to do is with this component, we're going to iterate over all of the NFT collections in this collections array once that information has loaded back, and we'll render each NFT collection into an NFT collection component. So to do that, we can say collections.map, and we'll map each collection into a new NFT collection component. And as props to this component, we'll pass the collection is equal to C as the collection is equal to C. And it says we need a unique key, so we can use the address since that will be unique. So we can say the key is equal to C.address. And now if we go into this NFT collection component, we can now set the props as a contract type, I believe this will be. Okay, so C is the type that we defined here, so it won't be an array anymore. So we can set the type of C to be address, contract type, and we'll import that type again. And within this component now, we can access the individual. That doesn't need to be like that. We can just destructure the C prop. Let's call that contract rather than C, just to be a bit more verbose. So now in our index homepage here, we're passing I think we called this the wrong thing, we called it contract. Passing the NFT collection contract, iterating over each one, and for each one rendering a new component called NFT collection. Within this NFT collection component, all we're doing is destructuring that prop so that we can access it. So now within here, we can access things like contract.id address, contract type, metadata. And if we just simply render the address and we run the yarn dev command again, now see that beneath our form, we have a horizontal line, we have my NFT collections, and we're loading all of the addresses of the NFT collections that I have deployed from this contract. Obviously, this is not that meaningful, but what we're going to do, and the reason that we created this component, is we're going to load the metadata for each of the contracts inside the individual component. So we'll have another use effect block here, and we'll have another async immediately invoked function expression within this use effect block, which just allows us to write async code within the use effect. And we'll have within this async expression, what we'll do is load the metadata of the contract. And what we can do is say const metadata is equal to await contract.metadata, and we'll call that function. And if you recall, in our index, we type this as a function that returns promise.any. So this will be typed as any. If we go ahead and console.log metadata, and it looks like we're missing the contract from the dependency array here. So you can say, once that contract changes, just run that every time. And now if we console log that metadata of the contract, you can see we have the name and the description. We have a bit more information. So this is actually contracts I've deployed via the thirdweb dashboard. But if we look at the latest one, we can see the one that we created using this application. So we have the name of cool NFTs. We have, actually, it doesn't look like we set the description. We must be missing that from our function in here. It looks like we are, so we can go ahead and quickly add that one in. We just add the description in the metadata of the NFT collection contract that we're deploying. And as you can see, we have the metadata, so we have name, description, fee recipient, image, if we uploaded one. And these are the NFT collection contracts that I deployed via the thirdweb dashboard. But this one here, the cool NFTs, is the one that we deployed via our application. So rather than displaying the address here, what we can do is we can show the actual metadata once that has come back. So we'll add a loading flag here using the use state. So we'll say const is loading, set is loading, and we'll use a use state of type boolean. And that starts out as true. And this set is loading to false once that information has come back. And now on the UI, we can say if is loading, we'll just return a div that says loading. And once is loading is false, we can say, okay, now the metadata has loaded, and we can show that information on the UI. So we need another stateful variable called metadata and set metadata. And this is just an any object, but we can expect things to come back like the name and the description. And we can show that on the UI in this non-is loading state. So is loading false state down here. So rather than the contract address, we could say things like a h1 metadata.name, metadata.description if there is one, and maybe we'll say a p tag of the contract.address. Let's go ahead and check that out on the UI. I think my server's still running. Quickly take a look at what this looks like now. So for each component, we're loading the metadata as that comes back. And we need to, of course, set the metadata in state. So let's change this variable name to m and set metadata to m here. And each time wants to change the metadata, but I don't think that makes sense. So as you can see here, we have some interesting NFT collection names and the NFT collection descriptions, as well as the contract addresses. So we've effectively loaded the NFT collections deployed by this contract address, and you can see how you could kind of build this out into a creator platform where you have individual pages, you load the NFT collections created by that page's address using something like Next.js's dynamic routes. You load the metadata of each of those NFT collections. What you could actually do is you could load all of the NFTs from that NFT collection, which is what we're going to go ahead and do now. So to do that, what we can do is we can actually use the use NFT collection hook. So what we're going to do on line 16 here is we're going to say const NFT collection. is equal to use NFT collection of the contract dot address. And with that information, now we have the actual NFT collection contract itself. What we can do then is pass that contract into another hook. I'll explain that in 1 second. We can say const data and destructure the data out of the object that gets returned from this hook is equal to use NFTs of NFT collection. And the reason it's named data is because this is using React Query under the hood, and the syntax of React Query is it comes back with data if it's a query or a request for information or loading of information, comes back with an isLoading flag that we can rename to isLoading NFTs. And we can also rename this data field to be NFTs as well. So now we have all the NFTs within this collection. We have a loading flag while that information is coming back, and we have the actual contract itself. We can call all kinds of different things on this contract, like NFT collection, .events, .get all, get address, get owned tokens, and all kinds of different things like that. But we're mostly interested in the actual NFTs of this NFT collection. So you could show a user's page where they have a bunch of different NFT collections created on their profile, and you could actually load all of the NFTs that contract has within the collection. So beneath this, let's change this to just say a p tag of metadata.name. I think it's getting a bit messy on our UI without any styles. So let's change this to just be the name. And beneath the name, what we can do is a similar pattern where we iterated over all of the NFT collections in this map function here. We're going to use a similar pattern where we iterate over the NFT collections in NFTs. But first we're going to say is loading NFTs. We'll show a loading flag while that is true. So we'll say if is loading NFTs, then we'll say loading NFTs, return that. Otherwise, in the state where loading NFTs is false and the NFT data has come back from that use NFTs hook, what we want to do is iterate over the NFTs in that NFTs collection. So we can say NFTs.map, and map over each one. So we say N represents the current NFT that we're iterating on. And within this, we'll return a div, which has a key is equal to the ID of the current NFT that we're iterating on. So that can be metadata.id. And within this div, what we'll do is, this needs to be a string, I believe. So let's just quickly fix that one up. Within this div, what we can do is we can show the n.metadata.name. So we can access the metadata of the NFT that actually gets resolved automatically from IPFS for us by using this hook. Let's go ahead and see if we can load up all of the NFTs that we've loaded within each collection now on the UI. So you can see we have, let's change this to be maybe a H3 or something, just so we can separate the collection name from the NFT names. So within our collection name WTF, we have 0 NFTs. Within our collection called My Firebase NFT collection, we have a bunch of different NFTs with each different name. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, blue circle, yellow star, and these are just the names of the NFTs. You can see for all of the rest of them, we have different NFT collection names. And in our most recent one, the one that we created in this video, we don't have NFTs minted into this collection just yet. But what we can do, which is even better than showing a name, is we can actually show the image or the media component, which could be an audio file or a video file or any kind of media, using the NFT media renderer component provided by thirdweb, which is called the thirdweb NFT media component. What we can pass into this component is the metadata field. So we've just passed the entire object, and we can pass in styles to this as well. So let's give it some styles, style without the plural. Let's give it a style of width, sure, 200 pixels sounds good to me. And let's close that off now. So now, rather than rendering the name, we'll actually render the media of that NFT. And if we go back to our UI here, you can see we have some beautiful media. We have a black rectangle, a blue circle, a blue triangle, and this is all of the NFTs within this My Firebase NFT collection. And if we scroll down, we should see the next one where we have the Web Marketplace NFT collection, and I believe this might not have any media associated with it, which is why we see an empty square here. But we have all of the media that we rendered in those NFTs associated with those NFTs rendered on the UI. You could see how you could transform this into a creator platform where you have users come into your application, create a new NFT collection, deploy it under the hood using the thirdweb SDK, and rather than loading just your address, you could have individual pages for creators where you have their wallet address associated to them, load the NFT collections that they have deployed from their address rather than just using the user address hook to load the currently connected wallet, and then you could have a nice little display where you formatted a bit better than I have in this video just for the sake of being brief. You can format it to show the profile pages where you have each of the NFT collections that the user has created and deployed to the thirdweb registry, and each of the NFTs within each of those NFT collections. And all of that information is really easily available using the React hooks from the React SDK. So I hope you enjoyed building out this Web3 creator platform with awesome functionality like deploying full NFT collections just from the React SDK. And if you did, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the thirdweb channel. We'll be coming out with more awesome videos like this very, very soon. But with that said, we'll see you in the next one.